Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Sorry for the delay, everybody. I was setting up our brand new logo.
Where is it?
It's on the live stream chat. Oh, way to reveal that you don't follow the live stream chat at all. Way to reveal that one.
Hold on. I think everybody knew that, man. I still haven't figured out how to follow the when we do the Zoom call. You don't know that, D? Everybody's reading they're texting things. I'm like, how are they doing that? I have a Zoom call question for you, D.
Yes.
You know. So, okay, help me out here. So, when you're on a Zoom call, and all of a sudden you see yourself.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Is it activated by somebody in charge who pushes a button, or just by talking does it activate it?
This is my coworker, guys.
Oh, man, just one of the great mysteries of life. I've often wondered about that. How does this Zoom call stuff work? Because Google Meet, you just see everybody, right? See, that's the difference, Dave. A little technological stuff, all right? You don't know.
Shout out to Joan on the live stream chat. She says, I love the new logo. Why a question mark, Joan? Do you not? What's going on here? Making us insecure about the new logo.
I like the new logo.
I really like it.
The one with the 4 stars?
Yeah, it's one with the Chicago stars.
Yeah.
You're on there laughing about something.
Probably something stupid that I said.
Or something stupid I said.
Yeah, that's true. Well, at least you know how Zoom works. Although I noticed you kind of ducked and dodged that one. Not really quite sure which one. Is it activated by someone who goes,
I mean, honestly, it doesn't even deserve an answer. That's just so silly. Trying not to embarrass us here. Our job is to be on the internet. These questions are... Okay, your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, February 9th. It's just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. The Chicago Federation of Laborers sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader. Go subscribe to the Chicago Reader. They're the ones who put this nice little logo together for us, all right? So go check out Chicago Reader. Let them know you appreciate the Ben Joravsky show, if you appreciate the Ben Joravsky show. Subscribe, check out Ben's column, so much more. Maya Duke Masavo, what to do, where to go in the city of Chicago. Boy, I love the Chicago Reader. All right, you have a song of the day? Comes from Frank, as always. And as always, the song is ancient. Jefferson Airplane, Somebody to Love.
Don't you want somebody to love? Wow, wow. As you recall, a serious man in the Coen Brothers movie played a pivotal role. Don't you want somebody to love? For 10 trivia points, Steve, who's the lead singer for Jefferson Airplane?
George Jefferson.
Wow, how'd you know that? Oh, my God. They had a second here. Moving on up to the east side.
The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Tuesday, February 9th. And yeah, still live from my apartment and his attic. Get used to it. This is the Ben Joravsky show. Today on the program, the long-awaited return of SDG, Stacy, Davis, Gates. What's so funny?
It's SDG.
And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Karen Lewis Tuesday, and here's why. Well, on a Tuesday, I usually start things off by saying, great weekend, and I tell you what I did. In this case, I watched the Bee Gees documentary, excellent flick, urge everyone to watch it. And I spent almost the entire weekend reading The Great Alone, an epic 600-page or so novel about a dysfunctional family in Alaska. But I'll skip going into any more details about that and get to the heart of the matter. Karen Lewis died this weekend, the great Karen Lewis, president of the Chicago Teachers Union, at age 67. I can't say I'm surprised. She's been in bad health, we all know, for several years. But man, I've been mourning, grieving, crying. Yeah, it's been really rough on me. Karen Lewis was a great leader and a great friend, and it's hard to lose two in one blow. Let me talk about the friendship part first. She was one of my phone talking pals, right up there like with Monroe Anderson. There was a time in the O's when I talked to Karen Lewis nearly once a week. And folks, I wish you could have heard those. I wish they could have taped those phone conversations because she was funny as hell. She was wisecracking. She was trash talking. She was one of the great trash talkers of all time. And usually she was talking trash at me. She cussed like a sailor. I can't even quote back to you some of the things she told me because even on this podcast, I'd be embarrassed to say them, but she didn't care. She had me cracking up. We talked about pretty much everything you could think of: race, gender, politics, religion, politicians, comedy. She was really into comedy. Celebrity gossip, movies. She loved movies. Music, tennis, white people. We love talking about white people. I always told her, Karen, I know more about white people than anyone else alive, having lived among them my entire life. And she would say, beat that, Ben. Nobody knows white people like a black person does. One time we talked about writing a book together. For a while I was dutifully interviewing her about her life, taking notes, and then she got sick, and we never got back to it. She came on the old radio show that Dennis and I used to do. She was our first guest on our first show, and something weird happened with the phones right off the bat. And this is my rookie debut, and I'm like, Karen Lewis is with us. And she's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
And I would say that later became a staple of the Ben Joravsky show. Just fucking up, you know?
Oh my God. Indeed, she gave me so much shit about that for so long. Oh, write me your radio show. Hey, why don't you tell that cheap radio station to pay its phone bills? She never came on the podcast because by the time we started doing the podcast, she was pretty sick, but she would have loved it. Her sense of humor would have fit right in. She'd be calling D White Lightning. And she'd be saying things to him like, do you know who else calls from Alton? Do you know that Miles Davis comes from Alton? That's the kind of thing she would know. She'd say, where are you from? Alton. Oh, Miles Davis comes from Alton. She's just an amazing person. She never took herself too seriously. I got a theory about this. People who charge to the front of the pack at an early age have a tendency to have a greater sense of themselves. Think of Rahm Emanuel. But Karen Lewis had lived a long and productive and creative life in relative anonymity before she burst into the spotlight as the union president. When I first met her years and years ago, she was a science teacher at Lane Tech, and she was helping her friend, my dear friend, drama coach Randy Bates, put on a school play. She was working the lights. How about that? She was introduced to me as Karen, just Karen, the science teacher, working the lights. Over the years, she accumulated a lot of wisdom. She was a master at detecting bullshit. And that bullshit detector went off big time whenever she heard a mayor or a school CEO or an alderman or a governor or a school board member or pretty much anybody in civic or corporate Chicago say, nothing matters more than the children. And she would say, if the children matter so much, how come you treat the people who teach them like shit? If the children matter so much, how can you divert tens of millions of dollars each year from the schools for your TIFs? She once gave me a big kiss, D, for writing TIF stories. How about that? Nobody's ever kissed me for writing a TIF story before. Great job. Keep writing those TIF stories.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen again.
Yeah. Anyway, Chicago's always been a city where people roll over and do what the mayor tells them. And that's the way it was with Mayor Rahm. He roared into the city in 2011, having been Obama's White House chief of staff, acted like he owned the city. He was the little mini emperor of the city. His word was law. Get in line. In 2011, Mayor Rahm got the city council to pass his stupid budget. 50-0 was the vote. 50-0. You couldn't even get Alderman Scotty Wagasback to vote against it. They just lined up like little lemmings and did what the boss told them to do. And that's the budget where Rahm closed the mental health clinics in high crime areas, said he was saving money, but really he was only saving a few nickels. He just wanted to show everybody how tough he was by picking on the weakest, most vulnerable people in the city of Chicago. But nothing matters more than the children, right? It was in that environment that Karen Lewis, recently elected as president of the Chicago Teachers Union, dared to defy Rahm. He told her he was going to make teachers work more for less, and that she was going to have to tell those teachers to fall in line and take it because he's the boss and she's the minion. And she said, fuck that. I'm a 57-year-old grown woman. I can quit tomorrow, walk away, and live my life in retirement in Hawaii. I'm not going to shove shit down the throats of teachers and tell them it's pizza. And so she defied Mayor Rahm. She called him the murder mayor. She called him Mayor 1%. She led the teachers on a great strike, and Chicago's never seen anything like it. It was funny because everybody knew where I stood on this. Everybody knew I loved Karen. All these nice little liberals on the north side would be like, Ben, does she have to be so mean? Does she have to swear so much? Oh, like Rahm's allowed to throw around the F-bomb at everyone. But when a black woman does it, it's like, oh, Ben, can't the teachers get a better spokesperson? Meanwhile, all the politicians are watching all of them and they're eyeing her. Will she turn to a pillar of salt? They've never seen anybody speak up to a mayor like that. Certainly they never did. And they're all telling Rahm, ugh, I completely disagree with her. And then they would tell me stuff like, Ben, there's other ways to get what you want. You got to play the game. Yeah, well, guess what? She won that fight. I like to think she spoke for the real Chicago, not the Chicago you read in the editorial page, but the real city. People saw Rahm as the gangster that he was, even if they were too beaten down and alienated to vote. Poor Mayor Lori Lightfoot. No more 50-0 votes for her. Can blame Karen Lewis for that. I'd say Karen Lewis liberated this city. She said, the hell with that. The mayor's not the emperor, and this is a democracy. The last city council budget vote was 29-21. Mayor Lightfoot was fortunate to get that 29. She lit up a cigar and drank some, what did she drink, bourbon? She drank scotch. No, delicious scotch and had a steak. She was so happy to pass that budget. A lot of those no votes came from aldermen like Matt Martin, Jeanette Taylor, Carlos Ramirez Rosa, real lefties. That's Karen's legacy. Vote your conscience, speak from your heart. Let the real Chicago be heard. I miss you, my friend, already. Great show, everybody. Stacy Davis Gates. Who else would we have on this show? But Stacy Davis Gates, day after Karen Lewis died, Karen was Stacy's mentor. And so we'll be doing a lot of reflecting on the great life of Karen Lewis, the legacy she left. And I may have turned to talk or two about the deal that the teachers apparently struck with Lori Lightfoot regarding going back to school and other stuff. But mostly Karen talk. She certainly deserves that. Before we do that, though, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, the man Karen Lewis happily, proudly called White Lightning, with the news.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'm Dennis. Let me make a quick note here before we get going. Mark today's show explicit. Okay. A lot of cursing in that intro.
Dude, I'm going to say something. I was channeling Karen, and I held back. Okay? I held back. Okay? I was just like, I wrote it the way she would say it, and then usually when I'm reading my little, which I can barely read, by the way, a lot of times, but when I'm reading it, I'll censor myself, but I go, no, this is for Karen, man. I got to let it go. That's how Karen would say it, okay? Beep, beep, beep. Man, if she came on in the old days, I wish how has your reflexes gotten soft? Back in the old days at that radio station, whose name I can't remember, you were really quick in the draw when someone would drop the F-bomb.
Oh, you mean on radio where you would get fined? Yeah, believe it or not.
You were like, beep, whoa, whoa, whoa. But you kind of lost it here. You know what I mean? If someone do you think you could still hit it? Don't you have like 10 seconds to push the button? Is that it?
Well, there's several options. You could do either 10, 20, or 30, but I don't want to radio nerd out here on everybody.
No, but there's how many seconds before someone hears it?
Well, you have the option. 10, if you hit it once, 10, twice, 20, 3 times 30. We're getting real nerdy here.
What if you just miss it? What if you're not in the room and it's up to me?
Well, you get fired. Wait a minute. Is that what happened? No, I'm just
Anyway, the young man from Alton with the news.
That's me. My name's Dennis. Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. We begin in Chicago, and the negotiations between Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's Chicago Public Schools team and the Chicago Teachers Union continues. When we last left you on Friday, still no deal. The CPS made an offer, and the CTU was like, almost there. But negotiations have been negotiated, and after damn near a month, we have a deal? Both parties have agreed on a plan for teachers to return to their classrooms? Almost! We're like really close. Let's recap what happened while we were away. Sunday, February 7th, 5:12 p.m. The Chicago Sun-Times, Tommy Two-Joint Shuba, and Nadir, I may cover schools, but I still work on Sundays, Issa.
It's funny.
The Chicago Teachers Union reviewed a potential agreement with Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration to reopen schools for in-person learning and avert the city's second teacher strike in 15 months. Under the city's proposal, which granted the union many of its requests, no teacher or staff member would be required to return to work before being offered a vaccine, and the reopening of schools would be pushed back to March for elementary and middle school students. At a late morning news conference, an upbeat mayor said she was, quote, tremendously pleased to announce that at long last, the two sides appeared to have a deal. I'd play the audio, but it's kind of old news, so we're just going to read the quotes. Lightfoot said, quote, "We are here to announce the very good news that our children will be returning to in-person learning this week," Lightfoot said, referring to preschool and special education students who would return on Thursday if the deal is approved. Lightfoot continued, saying this agreement was about making sure that everyone in our school communities just aren't safe, but also that they feel safe. CPS CEO Janice Jackson said she was, quote, happy that we have a resolution and that we're moving forward. But the Chicago Teachers Union tweeted Sunday morning, however, that, quote, hey, well, they didn't put hey, but they...
No, they should.
They should have, though, right?
It's like Ben Joravsky. Hey!
They said, quote, hey,
come on, man.
We do not have an agreement with the Chicago Public Schools until its representative governing body takes a vote.
Yes.
During a Zoom call later Sunday, CTU President Jesse Sharkey told members of the union that the proposal marks the, quote, end of the road in the lengthy bargaining process. Either members will vote to approve the deal or should prepare to potentially be locked out of virtual classrooms and get ready to strike. And that brings us to Monday, February 8th. 9:27 p.m. The Chicago Sun-Times and Nadir. Boy, I can't wait for spring break, Issa.
Poor guy's working so hard. Plus, Tommy's two joints not sharing the reefer when they're doing the stories together. You know, hey, come on, Tommy.
All right, Nadir, we don't know if you smoke pot or not. All right, so don't go getting upset with us. All right, the
Chicago. Come on, it's a Tommy two joints joke. Sorry.
All right, the Sun-Times piece says the Chicago Teachers Union's governing body has voted to send the latest school reopening terms proposed by Chicago Public Schools to the union's 25,000 members for a vote to officially end the standoff with district officials. The union's House of Delegates voted with 85% approval, 526 in favor, 82 against, and 12 abstentions to hold a full rank-and-file vote on the tentative deal, moving the nation's third-largest school system one step closer to resumption of in-person learning for up to 67,000 students. Some delegates were strongly opposed to the proposed reopening, and the House did not make a recommendation whether or not members should approve an agreement. Voting by the full membership will take place today. And, guys, I'm hitting F5 refresh and waiting for the updates, all right? The governing body Monday also issued a, quote, no confidence vote against Mayor Lori Lightfoot and CPS leadership. And, you know, I'd have to disagree there. Say what you want about the mayor, but she seems very confident to me, Ben.
I don't... I don't think the vote had to do with the mayor's confidence in herself. More like well, to quote the one of the characters in the great novel, The White Tiger, what a joke. There's nothing in that so-called agreement that couldn't have been agreed to like 3 months ago. If Mayor Lori Lightfoot had just deigned to meet with Jesse Sharp. Don't even have to meet with Stacy Davis Gates. I understand there's some kind of weird thing. Just meet with Jesse. You know, just emulate Chris Paul and the head of the NBA, Chris Paul, the Players Association president, meeting with his counterpart with the league. You know, you could cut that deal. There's nothing in there. I mean, I'm just thinking this is like a leftover, a remnant of what I was talking about that Karen Lewis dealt with. This notion in the city of Chicago, it's the mayor. The mayor is the center of the universe, and the mayor is the one who makes the orders, and we follow the orders. That's how we are taught in Chicago. That's what like the editorial boards and corporate Chicago and civic Chicago, shoving it down our throat. The mayor. So God help the mayor like reach out and listen to a teacher. There's nothing in that agreement, just common sense. I don't even want to go through that agreement. Just basic common sense. And by the way, D, I told this is classic. Front page of the Tribune. Half of students in Illinois still are remote. Illinois. We're not talking Chicago. Many districts lack resources to reopen, and Chicago deal on table to return to class. In other words, here's how it goes. We're in a pandemic. Let me remind you of that. They open the schools because kids have to be in schools, and their parents are freaking out. And I know, come on. I'm not saying that learning on a computer is better than learning in a classroom, but we're in a pandemic. So they have to, they open the schools because parents want those kids to get back out in the classrooms because parents have to work. I understand all that. But then there's like an outbreak. Boom, they close the schools. A couple of weeks, then they open the schools. You know, this is what's been going on, not just in Chicago, but all around the world. Open schools, close the schools. Open the schools, close the schools. We're in a pandemic. But Chicago, it's like, we've decided we're opening the schools and you're going to shut up and go into those schools. You guys, you got to see the affidavits. Legal notices that the Chicago Board of Education wants teachers to sign if they deign to claim they're too sick to go into schools. That's how they treat the teachers. You know, it hasn't changed all that much since Karen Lewis stood up. This city's fixation with powerful mayors is a little hard for me to understand. I just have never bought into it. All powerful mayor, round whom the planets rotate. Oh, the mayor, our all wise, powerful leader. Whatever he says, whatever she says, gender doesn't matter, race doesn't matter. It's the mayor. Well, anyway, so I think the teachers will probably vote D to confirm the quote-unquote deal. And schools, remember, these are just some schools. It's just the elementary schools will reopen, and guess what? We're in a pandemic. They're going to close. I'm going to tell you that's happening right now because we are in a pandemic. They tell you we're in a pandemic when it comes to Super Bowl parties. Don't get together for a Super Bowl party. Just stay home alone. You don't want to spread the virus. But then they pretend as though, no pandemic. Oh, what the heck when it comes to opening schools. You know, it's, I had a very cynical person tell me the other day, D, that so many parents are just so frustrated. You would think they would have a higher appreciation of school teachers. Talking about Northside parents, you know who I'm talking about. You'd think they'd have a higher appreciation of school teachers because you see these Northside parents losing their mind. They got to be home with their kids for 6 months. Get this kid out of the house. You'd think it would translate into liking teachers more. What a city we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I'm happy they reached a deal, D. Happy for everyone involved, okay? What a joke. Could have had that deal in, I've lost track of time. We're in February now. Could have had that deal back in September. Just, hey, talk. Just give Jesse a call. You don't have to have 80 meetings with the HR department. A form of torture. And then they brag about it. I'll never get over this. We've had 80 meetings. Did you know that? 80 meetings. And all the reporters are dutifully writing it down. They have 80 meetings. And then when they're on the talk shows, there's been 80 meetings. That's how the radio guys. There have been 80 meetings. And like, whoa. Guys, you ever think that was a form of torture? It's not like something nice they're doing to the teachers. They're making them sit in a negotiating meeting. Have you guys ever been to one labor negotiating meeting? 80 of them with the HR guy reading from the manual? And then they brag about it. There have been over 80 meetings. Lori Lightfoot on Face the Nation. And the Face the Nation host was like, oh, 80 meetings. Oh, very impressive. What a mayor. What a city. Oh, 80 meetings. Oh, come on, teachers.
80 meetings?
80 meetings? Oh, my God. That's really reasonable by the mayor.
80.
And they go, well, Stacy Davis Gates, I got to ask you, 80 meetings? Come on now. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. You guys spent, what, months coming to an agreement you could have come to with one phone call. Hey, let's be logical and reasonable. Let's figure this out. Come on, Jesse Sharkey. I don't know if Jesse's a sports fan. Mayor Lori well, look at it. Tease this. Apparently she's not a big basketball fan, but she's more of a football fan. So they could have got together and watched a football game.
So wait 78, 79, 80. 80. We're talking about 80 meetings? That's what
you know what?
Holy cow.
That's an early update. It could be up to 82.
Oh.
Yeah. Pat Whalen, if you're listening, could you do a little fact check for us on this one? Get back to me. Is it 82 yet?
All right, we'll go ahead.
80 meetings.
80.
Okay, 80 meetings. And the HR guy was there too.
All right, we're going to keep you posted with the latest as soon as it becomes available. Will we?
80 meetings. Wow, Chicagoans were like, Ben, there's been 80 meetings. It's just like, come on, tell those teachers to get in line. Tell your little friends. You love them so much. 80 meetings, Ben.
Keep listening to find out the update. Today's show brought to you by the number 80. Keep listening to find out for the updates on all this. But, there's a good chance that if you're listening on the download, you may already know the updates. Because you're from the future. What the hell? All right, let's move on. More Chicago news and more news involving the mayor. New week, new person working under Mayor Lightfoot turning in their resignation to no longer work under Mayor Lightfoot.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, good afternoon, Madam Mayor. This comes from the Sun-Times. And Fran, if it's about Lori, I got the story. Spielman.
Oh, very good.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot is losing yet another key member of her cabinet. Family and Support Services Commissioner Lisa Morrison Butler announced her resignation Monday in an email to the 50 aldermen with whom she has worked so hard to combat Chicago's entrenched problem of homelessness. We have some quotes here regarding Commissioner Lisa Morrison Butler. Boy, I tell you, never mentioned her on this show before. Ben, your thoughts?
I don't know Lisa Morrison Butler, and I think the problem of homelessness with the city of Chicago is one that the city of Chicago wants to deal with by and large by just moving homeless people out of Chicago. That's generally how the city of Chicago deals with really difficult entrenched issues of poverty. Let's just move them. Get them to the suburbs. How about Iowa? Can we move everybody to Iowa? Minnesota sounds like a nice place to move people. So anyway, I shouldn't be so cynical. I don't know her. For all I know, she did a wonderful job.
All right, moving on here. We have some aldermanic quotes here regarding the recent resignation of one Lisa Morrison Butler. First up, it's Alderman Pat Dow. Ben, of what ward?
Third.
That is correct.
Pat Dow said, quote, "It's a loss to the city. She was compassionate and fair. Whoever comes behind her has big shoes to fill." I could speak to her willingness to try new approaches to dealing with the homeless situation I have in a location in my ward. It's still problematic, but we were able to get 2 or 3 people into housing, which removed them from the streets. It's a challenge, but she was willing to try different ideas and find funding for them. We got another quote here. Housing Committee Chairman Harry Osterman. He agreed. He said Morrison Butler is, quote, one of the shining stars at City Hall, leaving Lightfoot with a huge hole to fill. She has worked to help homeless people, children, senior citizens in a very tireless way. She really touched a lot of lives in Chicago with people who need it the most, and did so always with the city council in a spirit of partnership. I can't say enough about how hardworking and what a great person she's been for the city of Chicago. All right, Ben, that's another Lightfoot administration member resigning. Her city council floor leader stepped down last week. Her attorney and a handful of others have resigned in the last few months. What's the dilly with the dally? I mean, it's clearly all their fault, right?
Yes. Yes. Our mayor, I try to tell this to you all the time. All right, D? The mayor is the star in the firmament. She's the light. Ooh, like that. The light that shines on the whole city. And before her, the last mayor was the light. He may have been a dimmer light than this light, but he was still the light. So get it right, okay? If someone quits, it's their fault, not the mayor's fault. If you can't work for the greatest mayor the city of Chicago's ever had, then don't take the job. Leave. All right? Hey, I'm speaking like a Chicagoan. And don't put ketchup on my hot dog. And dibs. Chicago. And I don't know what it's like there. It sounds like a, D, what can I say? I've been operating out of an attic for the last year or so. The notion, the people that I have to deal with in my work world consist of you and my editor is at the Reader. Really just one editor. So it's like, I don't know, man. I've been spoiled. But it just seems like a bowl filled with piranhas or something. You know what I'm saying? City Hall. Like something goes wrong. Someone's got to be blamed. I don't know. Like, just think about this homeless. Guys, the city of Chicago committed $2.4 billion with a B property tax dollars for upscale housing on the South Loop and the North Side. So, doesn't seem like they have a big commitment to homelessness. All right, just saying, just putting that out there. So I wouldn't pin anything on the what is it, like one staffer in charge of homeless? Oh, got it. There's how many thousands of homeless people in the city of Chicago? They got one person working on it. So anyway, I think the city shows its priorities when it spent $1.3 billion on Lincoln Yards. And what did Pat Dow, what woman Pat Dow said? Well, she worked, get some housing for us, a couple units of housing. Say no more. I wish her well. I noticed in the paper she worked for Rahm, and D, I'm just going to give you something right now. I'm going to say something. I'm open-minded. I do not necessarily hold that against anybody if they work for Rahm Emanuel, okay? Just saying that. I'm open-minded.
All right.
Okay?
Well, that's what you say at 1:36 p.m. on Tuesday, February 9th. Let's see where we stand in an hour.
Okay. Or 5 minutes. Hey, just because you work for Rahm doesn't mean you're like him. I mean, that'd be like saying everybody who's dumb enough to vote for him is like him. Chicagoans, they were confused by that election. It's like, I don't know, Ben. Barack Obama has endorsed him. I don't know, Ben. He wears that sweater. I saw this commercial, and it was like Rahm love. I don't know, Ben. It's just, I read about Garcia in the newspaper, and it's very scary. I think I'll vote for Rahm.
He rode his bike around Lake Michigan. Nearly 1,000 miles. Come on.
Chicagoans, you've done a heck of a job with your mayors. I can't hold it against any Chicagoan who voted for Rahm Emanuel. Some of my best friends, D, voted for Rahm Emanuel. I think Monroe voted for Rahm Emanuel. I have to ask him about that when I see him tomorrow. Ben, you're a hippie. Get over that hippie stuff.
When I was a little girl, I remember singing the song, "This Little Light of Mine." I'm going to let it shine. We've said it's time to bring in the light.
All right.
And it's sure shining on all of us tonight. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and God bless Chicago.
The audience was really kind of off on that. You haven't played that one in a while, D. But first of all, I give her credit. I forget the rhyme. Light and bright. I think there was a lot. Wow, I just got that. But the audience was a little off. She was going to let it shine, and the audience should be chanting back to her. I was at that. I was at her inauguration speech before the pandemic, right? And it was at the DePaul basketball arena in the South Loop, which was built with public dollars. Supposedly it was going to be built with TIF dollars, but when all said and done, the TIF money that was earmarked for that project wound up being spent at Navy Pier. Funny how that works. And yet Chicago cares so much about its children and its homeless people. We're going to spend $50 million on Navy Pier, taking the money from a program intended for blighted neighborhoods, even though Navy Pier is neither blighted nor a neighborhood. Back to you.
Oh, and that was right after you voted for her. So I remember you told me you got your I voted sticker signed by her, right? That was cool.
You know what, D? Let it. Yeah, I'm vulnerable on that point. You just feel free. Hey, I'm not running and hiding. I'm not like one of those Bernie Epton voters in 1983 who said, "Oh, I voted for him." I voted for her. Yeah, I did, D. I voted for her. Oh, yeah, not my finest moment. Next thing you know, I'm going to be a real Chicagoan. No ketchup on the hot dogs.
Okay, that's most of our listeners, right? Why are we trying to badmouth the majority of the people who listen? Not a good move.
You got to know that ketchup on a hot dog thing is so dumb. Anyway, Mayor gave that speech, but everybody was a little off. I just noticed that. Come on. And that was the old Lord, the new Lord Lightfoot would have fired everybody there. You're not chanting right. I'm going to take your cars. Everybody's like, wait, how am I going to get home from the inauguration? I'm taking your cars.
This chant is out of order.
Do you think Raylo was chanting along? Raymond Lopez, alderman of the 15th Ward. He was on stage. All the aldermen were there too. They were right behind her. She ripped them. The days of these corrupt deadbeats running anything are over. Yay!
Hi, Mom. She's talking about me. Hey.
And shut up and vote for my budgets.
All right, we got one more Lightfoot story. Hang tight, frequent YouTube live stream listener Jay Marie.
Big Mayor Lori Lightfoot fan, Jay Marie.
And Ben, maybe our downstate Illinois friends of the right-wing persuasion are on to something. Maybe Chicago should be its own state, separate from the rest of Illinois. Because right now, our Chicago mayor and our Illinois governor, well, they really seem to be on two completely different pages.
Big problems become big problems. Let small problems sit.
Boy, I'd say, buddy, where you been, dude?
Oh, God, it's hilarious.
We usually have to pry this guy away from Chicago, but now you've gone silent on the city. Hey, did you finally try pork steak? You like that downstate pork steak.
D, here's the thing. We discussed this, by the way, last Tuesday on our show, our first Tuesday show. Gregory Pratt, excellent reporter for the Chicago Tribune, pointed out. I noted during the discussion that J.B. Pritzker's notably silent on the whole issue of whether Chicago should open its public schools. You figure he weigh in with the biggest city in the state with the largest public school system in the state. He's got something to say about like an A&W in Alton. What about the public schools in Chicago? By the way, are there any A&Ws down in Alton?
Like the root beer place?
Yeah, the root beer place.
Yeah, those are all kind of gone now. There's a few like chains around the country, but no. There was never really an A&W.
God, I love A&W. Just thinking about that, I just love those things. You take the root beer, you put the ice cream in it. Anyway, you think you'd have something to say about, but no. And Gregory Pratt put it out there. I kind of agree with him. Lori Lightfoot could be pretty sharp with those elbows. JB's like, not going there. I'm just going to pretend like the city of Chicago doesn't exist, even though I live there. Schools, Chicago, let me get back to you on that one. I'll get back to you on that one, okay? So, yeah, he's been pretty quiet on the old school front, JB.
By the way, for those who don't know, pork steak. Look it up online. Big downstate thing. We love pork steak. Now, Ben, if we ever get Mayor Lightfoot on the program again, highly unlikely, but if we do, please refrain from any statewide Illinois trivia. I don't think she follows it that much. And after we hear the following from the Chicago Sun-Times and Michael O'Brien, Ben, I think you'll agree that she is not a subscriber to CapitalFacts.com. All right, here we go. The headline reads, Lightfoot sends shockwaves with comments on high school basketball. Thousands of Chicago public schools athletes and coaches have been waiting for weeks to get the green light to play. They've watched as the rest of the state has started playing again. Yes, the rest of the state has started playing again. But they haven't been told when they can start or why they haven't started yet. In stepped Mayor Lightfoot, who apparently is unaware that the rest of the state is playing high school basketball and other sports right now. A reporter at a news conference asked Lightfoot why CPS hasn't started. The mayor's answer, quote, well, it's not really our call. Obviously, we're going to follow the guidance of the Illinois State Board of Education, but also the Illinois High School Association. We've been anxiously waiting for further guidance from them. We'll check your emails. All right, I've been there. I don't check my emails from time to time. As an unrepentant sports fan myself, I'd like to see kids get back. There's some loosening of the guidelines to let some non-contact sports happen, but as far as I know, we haven't seen anything that's specific to, for example, high school basketball. So I'd like to see us move in that direction, but the state really controls the play. No pun intended on that issue. Yeah, great joke, Mayor, but you're a little behind here. Governor Pritzker and the Illinois Department of Public Health announced January 22nd that regions would be allowed to play basketball and other higher risk sports in Phase 4 of the coronavirus protocols. On January 27th, the IHSA started the basketball season and announced Monday that CPS will be allowed to play basketball until March 20th, 1 week longer than the rest of the state.
Oh, my God. This first of all, shout out to Michael O'Brien, sports writer for my beloved Bright One, the Chicago Sun-Times, home delivered. A couple things. I saw this story today, D, and had a few thoughts. Number one, it's clear that Lori Lightfoot is not a regular listener or a listener at all to the Ben Joravsky Show.
Just one specific portion. The portion about her, maybe? I don't know. The rest of it, I don't know.
Well, we had a discussion or two about basketball being back. Talked about how kind of weird it is to see basketball players wearing masks because they're making them wear them. The players have to wear masks. In fact, a picture in today's Bright One that illustrates the story. First of all, it shows Mayor Lori Lightfoot looking very glum and stern. And then there's a picture of Notre Dame's Anthony Salas going out for a layup against Prospect last week in Niles. I'll show that to all our listeners on our camera. Oh, wait, we don't have one. But I just want to say something. The guy from Prospect, dude, you got to put the mask over the nose. It's one of my pet peeves. Like football coaches who wear the mask but don't cover the nose. Anyway. So clearly, she hasn't been listening to our show, and she probably doesn't read the sports page, because they've been discussing the resumption of high school ball. My favorite part of the story is how nervous the coaches were. A lot of coaches in the city of Chicago are essentially at-will employees. This is why you have a union, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And coaches are very precarious. They have a very precarious existence. Like some of them are security guards at a school, or some of them don't even work for the school district. The basketball coach is their one gig for the school district. So it's not like if they get fired, there's going to be someone looking out for them to question the decision of whoever fired them. It's gone. So the reporters, you got any comment about Mayor Lori Lightfoot apparently not understanding that the basketball season could go on, insisting, by the way, get in that classroom right now. talking about how horrible it is for kids not to be in a classroom. But yet, unaware that she has the power right now to start that basketball season, make sure those guys wear masks. Didn't know that. The coaches are like, I'd rather not comment. I don't want to be fired. We just discussed all the people leaving City Hall. Well, what a warm and friendly place Chicago was. How open it is to people expressing them. That's what I love about Karen Lewis. I'm coming back to Karen. Karen Lewis told it like it is. You know? When I met her, she was a public school teacher. She told it like it is. And but the coaches, they know. This is not a democracy. This is like a loriocracy. And so you say the wrong thing, you're gone. I'd rather not comment about that. Off the record, I'm sure. I miss my dear friend Manny Winecourt, coach at Roosevelt High School. One thing about Manny, that guy was never afraid to rip Mayor Daley. Mayor Daley was the mayor of the city of Chicago when I was spending a lot of time at Roosevelt with Manny. He was critical of Mayor Daley, how he ran the public schools. Funny as all hell talking about him. It seemed in general, the gym teachers at any high school that I went to, and I went to a lot of high schools following basketball, the gym teachers always had the most to say. But again, they were tenured union employees. So they had a sense that their First Amendment protected right to free expression. As a public employee, you should not be fired from saying the mayor should know that the state has given her the green light to open basketball. You should not be fired and punished for that. Oh, choose not to comment. I'm sorry, I really don't want to say anything like that because I'll be fired. I'll be like, that lady, the lawyer, Flessner. Remember Flessner, the lawyer at City Hall? He has to be fired immediately. Brother. What a city we live in, ladies and gentlemen.
When I was a little girl.
Okay, we heard that already. Thank you. You said that already.
I voted for her. I voted for her, D. Yes. J. Marie, I did. I voted for her. Yes.
All right. Now on to statewide news. Mayor, if you're listening, please keep listening. You know, like we said, after recent events, we're led to believe that this is when you tune out of the program. But in statewide news, no public events scheduled for our Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
Who cares? But hey, with no public events, what do you say we give an update on the state of the state Senate seat successor? We've been wondering for weeks who will replace Senator Heather Staines. Well, and I've been wondering for weeks, Heather Staines, what did you do? But we shall wonder no more, because the state senator has a successor to her seat. Saturday, February 6th, 7:09 p.m. from the Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. In a surprise move, Northside Democrats on Saturday chose a former policy director under Mayor Rahm Emanuel and deputy commissioner in the city's Department of Planning and Development to ascend to former Senator Heather Staines' seat. Mike Simmons, a lifelong resident of the district, was chosen by a group of Cook County Democratic Party committee people to serve out the remainder of Staines' term, garnering 67,516 weighted votes from members of the committee. He has never held office. Now, also being considered for the Senate gig was state rep and, yes, dear friend of this program, KC Kelly Cassidy. But sadly, Cassidy received 22,493 votes, and the winner needed 45,006 votes. In a statement, Cassidy congratulated Simmons on his appointment and pledged to, quote, continue to be a relentless voice for our values in the Illinois House of Representatives on issues ranging from COVID relief to making sure communities are fairly represented in redistricting. So that's where we stood on Saturday. On to the latest, Monday, February 8th, 9:03 p.m. The Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. Northside Democrats promised no backroom dealing in appointing a successor to former state senator Heather Staines, vowing the process would be open and transparent. But State Representative Kelly Cassidy said Monday that that was not the case, and her decision to not engage in those dealings may have been a key reason why she lost the chance to win the appointment herself. Cassidy went on to say, quote, "I think that what it says is that we've got a long way to go to fix the culture and get people accustomed to doing things in a truly open manner. A deal that is supposedly high-minded is still a backroom deal." Cassidy was eager to move up to the state Senate after nearly a decade in the House, declaring her interest not long after her ally Staines announced her decision to resign. In the appointment process, Cassidy, who also serves as the 49th Ward Democratic Committee person, had the third largest share of the weighted vote of the Democrats involved in making the appointment.
One, I said last week that Kelly Cassidy would be joining us today for an interview, 4 o'clock to be dropped later this week. I've not heard from her, so I'm hoping she's still going to be on the show, but she's not confirmed her appearance, so I just want to put that out there. And Dee, I also want to repeat something I said earlier in the show. I'm going to make it apply to Michael Simmons, the newly selected state senator from the 7th Senatorial District on the north side of Chicago, just because Michael Simmons once worked from Rahm Emanuel does not in any way mean he's a bad person. All right, D? So stop having those negative attitudes.
No.
I see them in your head. I can see that little negative attitude.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure her family's nice. I bet she did want to spend time.
Just because he worked in the planning department. I would say the planning department under Mayor Rahm may have been the worst department under Mayor Rahm. They're the ones who said, I think it's a good idea to put a TIF on one of the wealthiest communities, one of the most fastest gentrifying communities in the city, north side of Chicago, and spend $1.3 billion on Lincoln Yards. That's the planning department. So just because he worked for the planning department, D, does not mean he's not going to be a good public service. So get that out of your mind, all right? A lot of good people work for Mayor Rahm. A lot of good people. So I congratulate him, and I confess I lost my bet. I didn't actually make a bet, but I kept saying if I could put money in Vegas, I'd bet a Kelly Cassidy winning this seat because she is a committee woman from the 49th Ward, and as such, it's a weighted vote and cast by the committeemen from the wards that fall in the district. So she had the second number of votes. Only Harry Osterman, Dennis's favorite alderman from the 48th
How'd you
Ward,
know?
had more votes. So I figure, Kelly's close to Osterman, the 48th Ward. They're all part of that same little group. She'll get the votes, but Simmons did a good job, apparently, of working those committeemen, presenting his case to the committeemen, and he was selected. It's so funny. I thought for certain Kelly Cassidy would be the state senator. I think I may have said that, D. So ordinarily what I would do is I go, Dennis, could you go back and review all the podcasts where I said Kelly would win and change it to say, I think Michael Simmons will win. I've heard that he's really, make me look good. But what the hell? I'm not going to make Dennis do that. He would do it anyway. So congratulations, Michael Simmons. Yes, he outmaneuvered Kelly Cassidy. It's pretty obvious. And he convinced Harry Osterman Terry Cosgrove, by the way, my dear friend Terry Cosgrove, who will be a guest tomorrow, kind of predicted it. TC really follows the stuff. He loves them both. He's like, I don't have a horse in this race. I love them all. They're all pro-choice, but I'm just saying, my sources tell me that Michael Simmons is really working the phones. So apparently he outmaneuvered Kelly Cassidy, winning the support of the committeemen, particularly the big kahuna there, Harry Osterman, alderman of the 48th Ward. God, Harry Osterman's gotten a lot of attention today. He's been mentioned twice on the show. I think that may be the first time, that he's been mentioned on this show in a long time. Kind of, sort of, maybe a little of an independent alderman, not afraid to occasionally criticize the mayor. No Karen Lewis, that's for sure. Anyway, congratulations, Michael Simmons. And Kelly, you're still one of my favorites. I think you're an outstanding legislator. Just Michael Simmons. working those phones, lined up to support. He emphasized the need for the North Side to send a message of support for diversity. He's a black man. And I think that apparently everything I've been reading in the newspaper, that was a very compelling argument. And they didn't hold it against him, D, that he supported Mayor Rahm. Although, truth be told, most of these North Side committeemen also supported Mayor Rahm.
Good thing you weren't a part of that decision making. My God, be up all night.
I mean, I bet you that nobody even asked him this, because only someone like me would go, dude, Mayor Rahm, for real? But you see, you got to understand about North Side reps, folks. You just got to understand this. Back 10 years ago, like when I was talking about when Karen Lewis came to town, man, they were drinking that Mayor Rahm Kool-Aid. You know, Mayor Rahm pushed the whole party to the right. And they were like going along with it. Oh, yeah, we got to cut pensions. We got to close schools. Yes, we do. We have to close mental health clinics. We got to save money so we can give more money to developers. That's what Mayor Rahm wants to do. And gosh darn it, my constituents love him. I was the North Side of Chicago, D, back in 2011, 2012, and Karen Lewis dared, how dare she, dared to defy the mayor. The city was just dumbstruck. They couldn't believe it. And editorial writers go, what's going on? How dare those teachers? It's the mayor's word in this city. So I can't really, be too hard on all the committeemen from the North Side, Harry Osterman or any of them, because they all drank that Kool-Aid. Karen Lewis liberated them to a certain degree, as I said, so. It's a different age. So nobody probably thought of asking him about his Rahm connection. Go ahead.
So congratulations, Michael Simmons, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it. Really like Kelly Cassidy. Frank on the live stream chat. No, Simmons is not a Rahm flunky. Stop it. We're trying to be positive here, Frank. All right.
God bless you, Frank. Frank was there. He was there. He came to the Hideout shows. With Karen Lewis on the stage at the Hideout with me and Mick. He remembers. There's like all the lefties in Chicago in that room. You can fit them all in the back room at the Hideout. Everybody else on the North Side, look, I really like how Rahm is closing schools in black neighborhoods, Ben, because the population is, I read this in the Tribune, population is falling. So it's really important to close the schools, Ben. Oh, okay.
All right. And,
so Frank remembers those days.
Shout out to Frank. You're awesome. And hey, seriously, what'd you do, Heather Staines? Anything? Nothing? I don't know. Let us know.
She wants to spend more time with her family. Would you stop that cynicism? Just like John Cullerton. Now stop it.
So that's really it for the local news. Now, we do want to circle back a bit here. Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, one Stacy Davis Gates, will be joining us momentarily. And if I can, I'd like to break the fourth wall for a moment. Is that okay, Ben?
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know where you're going with this, but break it.
Ben emailed me a recent Fran Spielman piece that he will be discussing with Stacy today. Apparently, our former Chicago mayor has weighed in on the recent loss of the great Karen Lewis. Ben, I'm going to grab Stacy right now, but for those who may be unaware or new to the city, give us a little backstory here and tell us about the relationship between one Rahm Emanuel and Karen Lewis.
Well, I'd love to hear what Stacy has to say about this as well, but I'll just speak from my heart about what I know about this. There was an article in today's Bright One, and everybody's saying nice things about Karen Lewis. That's generally what you do when someone passes, or if you can't say anything nice, you don't say anything at all. You don't weigh in. And this is the part that really gets me. I just wrote a column about this because I was really, it was a rough day for me yesterday. I was just processing the death of Karen Lewis and what it meant to me. And I just remember how fierce the opposition was to Karen Lewis on so many sectors of the city, corporate Chicago, civic Chicago, north side of Chicago, the aldermen. Like, if you take a look at that picture, that famous picture of Karen Lewis on stage at the Auditorium Theater, all the teachers are wearing red before they went on their big march to City Hall. This is before they went on strike, in the days building up to the strike. Very few aldermen had the guts to get on that stage with her. I think Bob Fioretti, let's give him a shout out. He was there. I think Scotty Wagensback was there. Nick Spozzato. Gonna give a lot of love to Nick Spazzato. You know, he's right wing now, but when it comes to standing with teachers, he stood with the teachers. And I always have a little bit of love in my heart for Nick Spazzato on that point. Not a lot of them. Most of them were scared. They were afraid and worried what Rahm would do, because Rahm was determined to crush the teachers union. And so, sorry about that, D. And so it's just so interesting now to read Rahm's version of history and how, yes, he was tough with Karen, but she was tough back, and they were friends, and they got along, and they learned from each other. And I'm like, man, dude, you're not being honest. You're not being honest. And, you know, I could like put up with it to a certain degree, but when it comes to like literally rewriting history so it serves your personal interest, it doesn't do us any good. And you say, Rahm Emanuel, that you love reading history and that you're a student of history, and you quote all the books that you've read, or you at least cite them. If you haven't read them, you can't quote them. But dude, come on, you're just rewriting this history. You were part of a, I don't know, neoliberal movement, pro-charter schools, privatize our public schools, open up charters, close schools, dilute the power of unions movement that captivated so many Democrats in the, the early teens and the late O's. Barack Obama signed on to that as well. It's part of the reason. It's part of the reason. You can trace that hostile attitude that so many Dems had to teachers unions. You can actually trace that to Trump's victory in Wisconsin in 2016 and in Michigan in 2016. You can make that connection. Didn't support teachers unions, didn't support public employees when Scott Walker went at them. And guess what? Went after them. Guess what? Donald Trump wound up winning Wisconsin. So politically, it was a stupid move. Educationally, it was a stupid move. And now it's dishonest to pretend it was any other way. Oh, no, it was just hardball negotiations. No, never saw you negotiate that hard with a developer who had his paw out looking for TIF money. Never saw you negotiate that hard with a big-time corporation that was looking to move to Chicago and was ushered in. Certainly didn't see you negotiating that hard with Amazon. Oh, my God, Amazon was talking about coming to Chicago. You couldn't throw enough billions of dollars at them. So this rewriting of history, because you see that it was a bad movie. Listen, it's better to be honest, in my humble opinion, than to be right. So you were wrong. You made a decision to sign on to the charter school movement, to the bash the teachers union movement, to privatize public schools movement, close schools to show how tough you are. You signed on to that. And you got the reputation as Mayor 1%. And then combine that with concealing the evidence of Laquan McDonald's murder, you're now a pariah in Democratic circles. You couldn't even get Joe Biden to put you in his cabinet, even though you pretty much begged him to do it. So now you want to like rewrite history? I mean, I would have more respect for you if you said, you know what, I was wrong. And Karen Lewis helped me realize I was wrong by kicking my booty in that 2012 teacher strike. I would have more respect for you if you're just honest about it. I'm honest about voting for Lori Lightfoot. Okay, no one's perfect around here. Although I still say, D, having said, I still vote for Aurora Tony Prickle. I'm just saying. Sorry, Jay Marie. So, I don't know. I read that. I was just shaking my head. And this whole notion that that he and Karen respected each other. I'd love to hear what Stacy Davis Gates has to say about that. Because Rahm Emanuel was really disrespectful, not just to Karen Lewis, but to the Chicago Teachers Union, to public service employees throughout the city of Chicago, throughout his tenure. And he never owned up to that. That cockamamie commercial with the sweater. I don't know if anybody remembers that one. Yeah, maybe I'm a little rough because I just believe in you so much. That's like a MAGA apology. Yeah, I smack you around Chicago, but because I love you so much. It's tough love. It's Ron love. And he put the sweater on. And he got reelected. He beat Chuy Garcia, largely because Barack Obama endorsed him. So I don't know, D. Rewriting a history is a little tough for me to take when I read Rahm going on and on. That's part of, I guess he's trying to rehabilitate himself too, you know?
Well,
he's
yeah.
Gonna get that.
He's trying to rebuild. He's trying to rehabilitate himself. I'm wondering what Stacy Davis Gates has to say. I actually pulled a few strings behind the scenes, Ben. Let's hear what Rahm has to say. I got him on the line here. Mayor Rahm Emanuel, are you there? Oh, hello? Hello? Okay, he hung up. He's gone. I had him.
Do you think Mayor Rahm knows that basketball is currently allowed in high school? High school basketball is currently allowed in the state of Illinois. Do you think Rahm knows that? By the way, and if Chicago were a separate state, here's the question I have for you. If Chicago were a separate state, would Lori Lightfoot be the mayor and the governor? Would she be both? Maybe she would turn the governor into like an appointed position, like a school board member. Would now appoint. The mayor will appoint the governor.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, one Stacy Davis Gates. Would she become the governor? We're going to find out. I don't know. We're going to talk with Stacy Davis Gates in moments. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. We are live from my apartment and his attic.
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
When I was a little girl,
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
when I was a little girl, I remember singing the song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine." We've said it's time to bring in the light, and it's sure shining on all of us tonight. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and God bless Chicago.
All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, February 9th, is brought to you in part by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
One of the first people I talked to yesterday, actually, literally the first person I talked to yesterday after I heard the news that the great Karen Lewis had died, was Stacy Davis Gates. Stacy, like picking up a great tradition of Karen Lewis, teasing me for my bizarre sleep habits. I'm usually up at 4 a.m. and I tend to sleep till 10. And Stacy, of course, is up with the worms, or up with the birds to get the worms. And so she was teasing me big time. Stacy, thanks so much for coming on the show to talk about the great Karen Lewis.
Hey, thank you for wanting to talk. And I think I only want to talk to you about Karen because I know how much you love her. And I don't say that in past tense because our love doesn't transition in that way. So thank you.
Yes, I've talked a lot already on the show, or some on the show, about my love for Karen Lewis, and I've written a couple things for the Reader about it. But I still haven't, Stacy, I feel like even though I've talked about it and wrote about it, I haven't really expressed fully what Karen Lewis meant to me on a personal level, but also what I think she meant to the city of Chicago on a larger level. And I said at the start of the show, she liberated Chicago to a certain degree. She took the shackles off. People may want to put the shackles back on, but like people were so afraid of confronting the mayor, so afraid of even if he said something stupid. He's selling all the parking meters that were $10 billion for $1 billion. Can't say anything bad about the mayor because he's the mayor. And Karen Lewis, like, no. I'm a 57-year-old woman. I can retire. I go to Hawaii anytime I want. I'll say what I want to say, and I'll speak from my heart. That was kind of how I view it in a nutshell. Why don't you talk a little bit about your thoughts about Karen? First of all, how did you meet Karen? Talk about that a little bit.
How did I meet Karen? When CORE was being built, Jackson Potter had this crazy idea that our union could advocate for the lives of our students and their families, and put together this motley crew of people, Karen being one of them. And I just remember how smart and clear she was, her confidence, all those damn ink pens. Because, if you've ever been next to her in a space where she's taking notes, she has, multicolored pens, how she takes notes. And so she was just real clear and easygoing. I think that's the other thing. I think the public figure was one thing, and Karen, completely different. She collects people, like all these different types of weirdos. And I consider myself a weirdo. She collects us. And she always has this, like, I've often imagined the Harlem Renaissance, and like, I know this is a tangent, but like I imagine the Harlem Renaissance, and you have this salon with all of these different types of people, and you have this person who's hosting. That's Karen Lewis, right? She gets all of these people together who wouldn't otherwise be in the same space together, and they're enjoying each other because she knows that we have more things that are in common than they are not. So you meet people with her. She's just easygoing. I think the best thing for me about Karen is that she gives you a chance, and that chance doesn't disappear if you make a mistake. She allows for your development, and she supports that. And that has been important for me. People like me often suffer from imposter syndrome, where you don't see yourself, you don't see other people who look like you, in effect, in these places, and then you spend way too much time wondering how you got an opportunity and why you got the opportunity. And she knew that. Somehow she knew it, even if you didn't tell her. And she supported your space and your place. So she gave you place, and then she created space for you to be there. And just her example. To your point, I'm 57 years old. I can say whatever I want to say. If they don't like it and they want me away, then I can go away too. I don't have anything to lose in this. And I think that to me was very instructive of how I get to behave. It's just like, because you can. Why not? And that's so liberating. So liberating.
When I knew Karen before she took over, I didn't know you. And she was the one who told me about you. Yeah, I got this Stacy Davis Gates and SDG. So how did she elevate? You were a high school history teacher.
I was.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so how did she determine that you had what it takes to become a lobbyist or for the union in Springfield, which was the start of your political career?
Yeah, that is funny. I was pregnant with my second child. I have three, as you know, but I was pregnant. My son was a toddler, and I'm pregnant. And I'm at the union for a committee meeting, like most of our rank and file. And she's with Audrey. Audrey, is forever her assistant. And I'm at the elevator. They're coming out, and I'm trying to go up. And we stop and greet each other, of course. And apparently they have been having a conversation about the position. And Audrey says, I bet she could do it. This little old girl can do it here. And Karen says Stacy could do that job. And I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but there is this stomach in front of me. The job that I'm doing is the one that I have. And, laughed, got on the elevator and went to the meeting. But what Karen told me later was that I need someone who will be transparent, who will be clear, and who will have judgment, and who won't be afraid to represent us. Because that place is different from what we have been accustomed to. We're teachers. But I also know that you won't shrink. And I need someone who won't shrink and who will carry our message in the way that it's meant to be carried. And so it happened.
All right, well, so this is around 2010, 2011. I've talked about this on the show, but why don't you give folks a sense of what the world looked like, politically speaking? This is before the Chicago teacher strike. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Before Bernie Sanders' lefty run in 2016, before the north side of Chicago said no more charter schools, this was a very different political world. Waiting for Superman was this pro-charter school, anti-teachers union movie that intoxicated so many Dems like Rahm. They were just consuming massive amounts of that Kool-Aid, talking about cutting pensions, cutting school, closing schools, etc. And Karen Lewis comes on the scene as the head of the Chicago's teachers union. And Rob told her, "Shut up, fall in line, because I'm the boss." So describe what it was like going into that political world as a lobbyist for Karen Lewis and the Chicago Teachers Union.
Well, we had just gotten rolled, quite frankly. Senate Bill 7 had just passed, and it was a very blatant attempt at defanging the union even more, so he could roll out these ridiculous ideas about how you give education to Black and brown children in Chicago. And we had gotten rolled. They bought up every lobbyist and had every lobbyist on their team. They gave major contributions to support their efforts. And so people were captivated by this operation that said everything right, that had all of, the panache and just everything. And then our operation was brand new. Not only was Karen brand new, Dan Montgomery was brand new as well. So it was like the perfect time for like the neoliberals to strike and provide this bullshit civil rights message as a means to breaking a union, as a means to, lessening and weakening the voice of teachers in the classroom, as a means of firing veteran and experienced Black female teachers. And so they went to Springfield and they got this bill done, and then they come back to Chicago beating their chest and basically saying, we're going to lengthen the school year, lengthen the school day. We are going to make sure that Black kids learn, and we're going to make education better in Chicago. And I mean, look, they had a 20+ year head start. They knew what they were doing, and they started putting it into motion. What they didn't realize, though, is that Karen Lewis and her leadership is that she didn't lead from the top. She led with a lot of different individuals, rank and file, her executive team, her officers. She was smart enough to know that she didn't know everything, but she knew enough and knew enough people to put together a team that was dynamic. Most of us hadn't done anything before, so we quite frankly, we didn't have anything to fear because we didn't know enough to be afraid of anything. That's one. And then two, we didn't have very much to lose. And I think that's the part of the story that people often leave out. You basically took everything away from us, our bargaining rights. And then you doubled down and said, now you can't go on strike unless you get 75% to say yes. And then all of these other like weird, silly, procedural, things that had to be met in order for us to fight back. And we did, because she said we can. She went school to school. All of us went school to school. And she did it too. I think that's the most important part. Often you can have leaders who would say, this is what we're going to do, and people get in position and they do it. But she got into position too. Coach would be there to pick her up, and they're going to school meetings together, right? And they go from school to school together and put that, and she's giving the rep. She's organizing the members. She wasn't just on top, she was an organizer as well. And then she was accountable, right? You don't, listen, teachers are a tough crowd, and they read, and they have discernment, and they are unafraid to ask a question. So she's not just going to schools and people are just like falling down in front of her. She's going to schools and answering very tough questions, critical questions, critical of the union, because, why not? Critical of the laws, because why not? And critical of their overall working situation as well. So these weren't easy meetings. People weren't in complete adoration of her leadership at this point. That's not what was happening. But she did the work, and she did it with people. And so by 2012, in September of 2012, when we were on strike, you saw the manifestation of her work, of all of our work. But I want to say she led it. And I'll never forget the night before we went on, that night, because I think it was at midnight we had declared like strike. There was a letter that came from the city council members, all of the Black Caucus, I think all of the Latino caucus, and various other members, and basically told her she would be making a huge mistake going on strike, that this is not something that people wanted, just very declarative, right? And then that wasn't the only letter. There were other letters, there were other phone calls. Hell, there were even people who were on our side who were saying the same thing. Like, you can't beat Rom. Rom is this, like, he's this like large. Hell, I didn't even know that Rom put his pants on one leg at a time, the way that people talked about him. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, word? Like, he's like, is he an Avenger or something? Because people were just really like building this little dude up. And so she was troubled, of course, because who wouldn't be? Those phone calls are supposed to sow seeds of doubt. Those phone calls are supposed to make you think twice and 3 times and 4 times. And, I go in the office, the lights are off, she's laying on the couch, and I was like, oh, my bad, I didn't know you were sleeping. She was like, I ain't sleep. Well, she didn't say ain't, because, Karen is just as proper as they come. But I'm not asleep. And she just said that this is heavy. And she said, I don't want to make a mistake. And I also know that we have to go out, because if we don't go out, this union and public education in this city will be non-existent. She recognized that our union was the last guardrail to protecting public education for Black students, for brown students, and for working class students in the city. And she said yes. She said yes. And here we are. Here we are.
Well, that's bringing back a lot of memories for me. I'd like you to zoom in on something. The role of Black officials as sort of, I don't know, agents of Ram. Maybe that's too strong a word, agents of Ram, messengers of Ram. And I've had many, many off-the-record conversations with politicians, and when they speak honestly, Stacy, they go off the record. And they'll be like, you can't beat this man. He's too powerful. And Karen Lewis has got to understand, this man is too powerful. You got to make a deal with the man. Stacy Davis Gates, if I had $1 for every one of those conversations I've had with various elected officials, Black men mostly, I'd be close to a millionaire. All right, maybe $10, then I'd be close to a millionaire. So talk about that. You got to confront that attitude that is so prevalent in the city of Chicago, Stacy, that Karen was confronting. That mindset that you can't beat the Rahm Emanuels and the Mayor Daley's of the world. You can only maybe cut a deal with them that wasn't so bad. Talk about that.
They were thinking about it like the caricature of an alderman. They never understood labor in the way that we understand our labor. Rahm wasn't fighting a politician. Karen wasn't an alderman. She is a leader of a teachers union. And that was the miscalculation, was that this was about two different politicians. No, it was about a boss and a union. And she understood that dynamic better, I think, than anyone else understood it at the time, is that he's not beating me. He's not beating me up. He is trying to beat an almost 30,000 member union. Those are all people who live in Chicago. Those are all people who are feeling this in a particular way. And so that is the miscalculation, is that people want to have campaigns against a union leader, but you can't have a campaign against a union leader when the union leader understands where the power is. The power is in the rank and file and has always been. Labor has gotten it wrong over time that this is supposed to be about the person sitting on top. It's not that. Hell, even aldermen get it wrong. It's not even about you. It's about the people who live in your ward that you represent. And when we begin to privilege the people who have elected us, then we get it right. These pissing contests between leaders is the wrong thing. The only reason why you engage in this way is because your members have given you the mandate to engage in this way. That's it. That's all. But you also have to talk to them, talk to them, your members, the people you represent. You also have to have a heart and a mind for serving them in the way that you have conceived of serving them. All of these things go together, but if you're a foundation, if the infrastructure isn't about service, if your values aren't to listen to and serve your membership, then you will get it wrong. You absolutely will get it wrong. And she didn't get that part wrong. She didn't. And here's the other thing. She had enough of a relationship with our members to trust them. That's the other thing. She said, Stacy, these are grown-ups. These are grown-ups who are working because they have to. These are grown-ups who are working because they have mortgages, they have car payments, they have children in college. So yes, they are educators who want to impart service, impart an education and provide service to their students, and they collect a check because they have responsibilities. You have to make it make sense to people, and then depend on those people to understand that. Now, if they have questions, be available to answer them. Don't hide the ball. Don't misinform. Be honest and have the discussion. And 9 times out of 10, whatever you are organizing, they will see the utility in that.
I just confessed this. I wrote a piece for the Reader that is, I think just came out. Good-natured, making fun of myself. Confession. I don't know if I ever told you this, Stacy, but I made a very foolish bet with one Karen Jennings Lewis. I bet her that there would be no teacher strike.
Bless you.
Yeah, I bet her dinner. Look, the winner pays. The loser pays. I said, Karen, you got to understand. Look, I'm explaining to Karen. Look, Karen, I've been covering politics in this town a long time now. You're a high school science teacher. Let me explain to you how politics works in this town, all right, Karen? So what's going to happen? There's no way Barack Obama is going to let his old chief of staff screw things up and have a teacher strike in his hometown on the eve of the 2012 presidential election. They're going to put the pressure on Rahm. Rahm's going to cut a deal, and it's going to be kumbaya. No way. There won't be a strike, and I'll bet you dinner. She goes, I'll take that bet. So I lost, and I happily paid up the bet. It was a great night, and she was teasing me up until the day she died about that bet. But where the hell was Barack Obama? I mean,
know.
where was he? Go ahead.
You don't, as the president of the United States of America, to get involved in a deeply local issue is problematic. Like, you are the leader of the free world. And then he also knew what he sent back to Chicago. So.
Wait, I would have liked him to have that attitude when he went over to Europe to pitch Mayor Daley's Olympics. I wish he had that attitude back in 2008. We signed a blank check for the Mayor Daley. We'd still be paying off that damn Olympics if we had been bailed out by the International Olympic Committee. So, I don't know. Could it be that Rahm intimidated Barack Obama?
I don't know if that's what it was as much as it is that, look, you were raised by a teacher. You know that teachers check boxes. They are typically very orderly, abiding individuals. They don't seek trouble. They don't seek radical behavior. They just want stability, to be respected, and to be able to provide an education, to have some professional autonomy. People like Rahm, other neoliberals and ed deformers, Karenism, those people took it too far. They ripped all of the professional space from people who were experts, who were highly trained, and who had very, they had deep commitments, not just to the professional, but the profession, but to the people that they were serving. Karen was a nationally board certified teacher. She had a deep and abiding love for the profession. And so you had pissed a number of people off. They didn't want to fight in that arena, but they had no choice. And Karen understood that. CORE understood that. And then when CORE took over the union then understood that. Also, the blame that teachers received, the scapegoating. So you're going to give a culturally biased test, a tool of white supremacy, to Black children on the south and west side of Chicago as a means to evaluate the success or failure of a school. You already know that test is not going to produce an achievement or a successful, because it's not designed to do that. In fact, it's designed to submit my inferiority as a Black kid or as a brown kid. That is exactly why it was designed. That being said, these freaks were using that test to evaluate educators who at the time were overwhelmingly Black and female. Those people were moved out of their jobs. And their schools were being closed at the same time. It was cynical, it was an overreach, it was wrong. And so what they did is that they went too far. And then they started to run up against a group of teachers who had been closed down, who had been removed from their spaces because of the tools that they used. And I think for many of us, Karen included, it just pisses us off to hear people who don't give a damn about making sure that there's affordable housing. Don't give a damn about thinking about if we need a hospital or a doctor in our neighborhood, a grocery store that sells fresh produce. Then all of a sudden be so concerned about public education. Now they're not concerned about anything else. Housing, the type of policing we get, which is really occupation and abuse. But education you are concerned about. No, you're not concerned about that. And her leadership ushered in like the fullness of what we experience as educators in Chicago. It wasn't about 3%, 4%, 5%, 3-year contract. It was about how many kids are in that classroom? What else in that building do you need in order to make it work? And guess what? You actually get to ask for homeless children to have a house. Mm. You do. You get to call out the occupation of a school by police officers. So you can give me a police officer in a Black school, but you can't give me a social worker, but then you can talk about the trauma. She called out the inconsistencies of that. So she called Rahm Emanuel a murder mayor.
Yes.
She's very clear.
Mm-hmm. All right, you mentioned his name. Let's get there. I already had a little, before you came on the show, had a little fun at Rahm's expense. I would say the beginning of the end of Rahm's political career was when he so blatantly insulted Karen Lewis and underestimated her. If he had come to me, I'd have told her, don't do that. Told him, don't do that. I know her. She's smart, and she's not going to back down. But Stacy, he didn't come to me to ask for my advice. So now I'm reading in my beloved Bright One, the Chicago Sun-Times, home delivered every day, Rahm's revisionary history of what went down and how it's like he and Karen are these two learned Jewish scholars who are going over to the Torah and just like having these great existential thoughts, but really love each other when all is said and done. And Stacy, I would have more respect for Rahm if he just admitted that he blew
my ass.
She kicked my ass. I underestimated her. I drank all that neoliberal Kool-Aid. I was a complete idiot. I actually believed that stupid movie, Waiting for Superman, and thought I could ride that to what? The presidency? Whatever ambitions he had. Boy, did I blow it. She kicked my... I would have more respect for her if he just owned up to it. Talk about it, Stacey Davis Gates. The real relationship. Go ahead.
Look, Karen had the ability to make you think a lot of things in a discussion. And it's very easy in the past tense to lift the thing up. It's a lot harder to contribute to the tension that she had to sit with for all of those years. It's a lot different to capitulate to the failed model of leadership that was demonstrated during that time that he led. It's a lot harder to lift up the mirror to what she put forth in terms of leadership ideas and fight back when you were the epitome of it at that point. You would have to humble yourself and say, I got him wrong. Now, he ain't doing that. Bless his heart. but he don't have to, because her ability to lift up and transform in that moment had everything to do with just calling the names of the people who were doing the things that were detrimental to the actual children who needed the resources. But it was also the conviction that she had too. She's Southside Chicago, both of her parents educators, her husband an educator, he a lifelong Southsider, John, Coach Lewis. What she gave Chicago was just the extension of her love for Chicago. I remember being in rooms where people of note didn't even want to look her in her face, didn't want to give her the respect of being a leader of a union, wanted to dismiss her voice, wanted to make her smaller in the moment because they were unable to keep up with her. Karen was multilingual, spoke different languages. The basis of her ability to speak different languages was her understanding of Latin. Like, understood it, had a very great command of the English language, right? And so to sit with her, you also had to sit in her brilliance. You know how hard it is for dumb people to sit inside of someone else's brilliance and power? So they try to minimize you. They try to make you smaller. And that's what his problem was, is that he didn't just underestimate her, she was invisible to him. Like many Black women are invisible to institutions and leaders of institutions in this country. We are invisibilized only because we're female, only because we're Black. And so his mistake was the mistake that many folks make and will continue to make. And she didn't make him pay for it. She just made herself seen. And had anyone given themselves an opportunity to see her from day one, they would have already known that she was going to make good decisions, that she was a dimensional thinker, and that she was always going to be one step ahead of you because she was genius in that way. But they couldn't accept that because they couldn't see her. I think it's a lesson in not making, I think it's a lesson in being able to see other people, that you're not the smartest person. It's not just the power that she helped to build, because she didn't just have that power. It was her generosity. It was, and I want to go back to dimensional thinking. She understood that they were fighting a person. And even though she did not cherish the limelight, she did not. She understood its meaning in our mainstream popular American culture and what that meant for the movement. So she did it, oftentimes begrudgingly, but she did it. But she also made sure that there were others behind her, that there were others with her, and that there were lessons being handed down. Karen would call you to her office just to talk to you about nothing and then everything.
One of the things that follows up with Ram's comments to the Sun-Times about how they were really such great chums is just sort of the adulation that has erupted in the mainstream media and Chicago regarding Karen Lewis. I'm going to be honest with you, Stacy Davis Gates. I'm having a little trouble with this. Okay, I wrote about this for the Reader. It's coming out tomorrow. And it's like, it reminds me so much of Muhammad Ali. I say this all the time. You know, when Muhammad Ali lost his ability to speak, he couldn't say what he believed, suddenly everybody loved him. And then when he died, they loved him even more. I had issues with Muhammad Ali when he spoke. I didn't agree with everything he said, but I was like listening, and you know what I mean? I was processing it. Man, when Karen Lewis was alive and leading the teachers union, I didn't know, I can't think of any. You talked about the aldermen. I think I can name 4 aldermen who stood with her. Maybe I'm forgetting someone. I apologize. I think Fioretti, Wagasback, Nikki Sposato, Susan Sadlowski-Garza wasn't an alderwoman yet, so I may be forgetting someone, and I apologize if there was somebody I forgot. That's it, out of 50. No editorials in support of the teachers at all. It was like, shut up and get back to work. No, the president was pretending like this wasn't even going on in his hometown. Now they love her. Oh my God, Karen Lewis. What a great leader. Oh my God. I'm having a hard time with this, Stacy. Talk about it, revisionary history. Your thoughts? Am I too hard on all these people?
Are you too hard on all these people? No, I think that's what they do. They defang Black leadership once Black leadership is no longer around. And they do that in an attempt to stop other Black leaders from emerging. Look, when I learned that Dr. King liked cognac and that he liked women, I was like, so he was regular. He wasn't just, you know what I mean? He wasn't just this larger than life, almost mythical superhero, because I'm not a superhero. So why would I ever be able to like lead in the way that he led? I think that is problematic. People should be people, flaws and all. We should be able to sit with mistakes. We should be able to sit with inadequacy, perceived inadequacy. We should be able to sit with the reality of a human being and to know that human beings can do good things, can do great things, and can be called to even greater things when circumstances and situations allow for that. And like, that's Karen. Like, I saw her up close and personal. I heard her talk about the butterflies. I heard her talk about the doubt. I heard her talk about rejection. I saw the nasty cartoons that people wrote about her, the social media posts, the comments underneath articles and pictures. I saw how they chose certain photographs of her, and she photographs beautifully. Like, Karen is a beautiful woman and takes the best pictures of anyone, her smile, everything. But that was never the picture. Never the photograph that was chosen to go with the story. It was always this narrative that they wanted to give her and not the one that she gave. You know, it's interesting now, I did read some of the comments and some of these stories, and I didn't know she was Ivy League. And it's like, huh, you didn't? It's always this character that media attempts to write, the stories that they want to tell that will sell versus the reality of who these individuals are and the actual power that their reality gives those of us who are watching and paying attention and who need to be organized. That's the part about this. Karen being a Southside Kenwooder, Karen leaving high school early and going to college. She didn't graduate until here recently. She didn't get her diploma until like a few years ago, her high school diploma until a few years ago. So this whole concept that you defang them afterwards, it's supposed to exclude the power of the organizing. It's supposed to exclude the power of the murder mayor comment. It's supposed to exclude the organizing, the marching, the debates within your organization, the failures and the mistakes, because all of those things make her human and also inspires other people who are equally human to say, well, hell, if she did it, I can do the same thing. I made that mistake, or my mistake wasn't even as bad as her mistake. You know what I'm saying? And so giving a person an opportunity to sit in the humanity of leadership inspires those who always count themselves out, especially women. And we've talked about this before. We will come up with 10 excuses or reasons as to why we can't lead, instead of using those things as the reasons that inform our leadership and make us a more powerful leader.
Yeah, you're right about that. We're not gonna. The first time Stacy came on the show, I was pounding the drum for a woman to run for governor. I put her on the list. We called her Governor Gates for the longest time. All right, let's talk about the 2015 mayoral run that wasn't. I was so excited. I think I may have mentioned this to you yesterday. I was at that Beverly Banquet Hall on the southwest side of Chicago in the summer 2014, and Karen was doing the series of Conversations with Karen, where she would sit down in front of a group of reporters with a journalist, and the journalist would ask her questions. It was really an attempt to like hone her message, build support, get raise money, draw attention to her campaign, while pretending it was like all part of a thinking tour. Would she run for mayor? And so I was actually gonna. I don't know if you know this, Stacy, but
Stephanie Gatlin is brilliant. That was her idea.
That was her idea.
Right. Yep, Stephanie's idea was brilliant. Still is one of the most brilliant ideas I've seen. I
was going to be the journalist when she came to the North Side, which is so funny. They were going to have me talk to Karen. I really was sad when that didn't happen. But anyway, I was so excited. I remember I was with Michael Harrington in the parking lot. Michael Harrington was one of Karen's top aides back then. And after that banquet hall meeting, I'm like, Michael, she's going to mop the floor. I'm telling you, she's going to mop the floor with Rob. He's going to whoop his ass. And then Carol, the coach that Stacy keeps referring to as John Lewis, former basketball coach at Lane Tech High School. Shout out to John Lewis, great basketball coach. And he was, man, such a good husband. He drove Karen everywhere. He took care of Karen. God bless you, Coach. Anyway, I remember them coming out of the banquet hall. Everybody's cheering, Karen, Karen. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, it turns out she had brain cancer and had to go to surgery, and the campaign never happened. And so let's just pretend, Stacy Davis Gates, let's just pretend she didn't have the brain tumor. How do you think that campaign would have gone down? Rahm versus Karen.
Oh my God, can you imagine the type of Chicago we would have in this moment that would be so much more transparent? Bridges wouldn't have been lifted over the summer. You would actually have leadership that would be seen from the 50 wards, the 77 neighborhoods. I think she would have given an example of how you get to a place with people and not against people. I think she would have demonstrated the ability to be empathetic and expectant at the same time. Karen would have held our hands through this. Like Karen, people don't get it wrong that she has a big heart, because she will hold your hand. And she will also expect you, though, to man up and get some stuff done, too. Like, she had this perfect mix of being your best friend, your coach, and also your coach. Like, and I think that's the part that sometimes people miss. I think people think that leading is just about a speech, or leading is about admonishment. Leading is actually about getting those who are following to be their best selves, to want to see and do better, like this inspiration of organizing. It's about getting people to take responsibility for their space with other people. and that our institutions can be pulled into those spaces and then produce better for all of us. Oftentimes, I think leaders believe that once they get to the place that they're trying to get to, that things will just fall into place and that people will just obey and do because you are the leader. Karen understood that the leader meant that I get to have influence, that she said, this is about influence. You can't make people do anything. You get to influence, you get to hold accountable, you get to inspire, but most importantly, you get to work with the people in order to get the work done. That's how she saw leadership. And if you see leadership like that in Chicago, then you see transformation, because that's what she did to our union. She transformed it. Look, there wasn't a sea of red before Karen. Nowhere. That Black woman stepped out by herself as a union leader and in a deeply hostile environment for educators and for labor. And she took an entire union with her. And then you saw West Virginia. And I know people like to tell the story that Red for Ed in West Virginia. Sure. No. It was Chicago. And now everyone has a red t-shirt. They were wearing blue t-shirts before. That's our color in AFT is blue t-shirts.
Yeah.
You weren't wearing red. CTU was wearing red. Karen Lewis had on red. You remember her at the Auditorium Theater? That's when I knew it was different. That's when I knew it was different. I had never seen anything like that in my life. And that woman got up there. I remember that day too. She was breathing deep on that one. She got up there and she commanded that entire auditorium. And her speech, where she started speaking the different languages she knew, oh my God, it was electric. She literally set that place on fire. I've never seen people since then love and cherish and lift up one person in the way that they lifted her up. That was amazing. And I was at Grand Park with Bernie Sanders. But it was electric in there. People knew they had a leader, someone who was going to go to war with them and for them. It was something to see. Karen was, I don't know, man. This hurts.
By the way, the assumption you made when you went on that riff was that Karen would have beat Rob. Now, I know I was proclaiming that in the parking lot to Michael Harrington. Well, I mean, ultimately, Stacy, I do not know that she would have defeated Rahm. He would have come at her. I think I told you this. I saw the opposition's document that they put together against Karen. She owned property in Hawaii. They were going to make a big deal about that, get the papers to run that story.
They did run that story.
Yes, they did. You're right, though. I think the Bright one, Sun-Times. Or maybe it was a Tribune. I can't remember.
It was
anyway, it was the Sun-Times. Yeah, they. So you knew that was coming. So I like to believe that she would have defeated Rahm.
They called her a thousandaire.
Yeah, a thousandaire.
It was so stupid.
Yeah. All right. By the way, we just got to just briefly about the personal Karen Lewis. I just have to say this, that yes, you're right. She spoke all those languages. She was really smart, but she was so much fun to talk to on a one-on-one position. And she was such a trash talker. And one of the foulest mouths. I opened the show dropping F-bombs, which I don't usually do, just out of a tribute to Karen Lewis. Karen Lewis has said some things to me, Stacy, that I can't repeat. I'm blessed. They're so funny. And she just loved, like she like gossip. You could talk about gossip with her.
She would call you to her office just to be messy. And I was like, Karen, I got work to do. I can't be doing this stuff. Just what did they say? And what was it about? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this with you. Just pull you in. Just pull you in. Yeah. And nothing. I was like, dude, you are the president of this union. You ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Just messy. And she was a trash talker. Like, Karen was fun. That's the other thing that she was fun. She would sit at the bar and get a French 75. And I'm like, what is a French 7? She was refined and ratchet all at the same time. All at the same time.
Yes,
Prosecco and Malbec.
Yeah. Okay.
And then cherry Pepsi. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like all of these like contradictions everywhere.
Yeah. Do you ever get the feeling that like the good days are past? Are you getting like me? I had a guy come on the show last week or a couple weeks ago. Ken Davis said that his feeling about the teachers is that they're living in the past of 2012. And Karen Lewis and that stage at the Auditorium Theater when she led everybody. And Jesse Jackson. I got to give Jesse Louis Jackson credit. He stood with the teachers as well. I still am only stuck on those 3 aldermen. There must have been a 4th up there besides Fioretti, Spizzato, and Wagasback. But anyway. Johnny Arena. Sorry, John. How can I forget John? 45th Ward Alderman John Arena. Okay, 4. That's it. Wow. Not one black alderman.
Ron was in and out. Rod Sawyer was in and out.
All right.
Uh-huh.
I remember your dear friend, Proco Joe Moreno. Just kidding. She's not really his dear friend. Going on national TV. First Ward Alderman. Fox News. I love teachers, but I can't stand that union. They were trotting that theme, that one out. Anyway, do you ever
Pray for him. Pray for him.
Yes.
Pray for him. No shade. That's a real thing. Pray for him.
Yes, that is true. So anyway, do you ever worry that you're living in the past? That
I don't even know what that means, living in the past. I think it's cute when people continue to equate this like it's a political campaign. I need people to understand that when you have a school district that is 90% students of color, over 80% free and reduced lunch, the issues that we're dealing with are connected to poverty. So once we deal with white supremacy, once we deal with poverty, then all of it's over because we would have done our job. But the fact that these are persistent issues and challenges that our school communities face, that's what we're going to be fighting against and pushing back on. Common good bargaining is about making us whole and calling the institutions to a higher place of resourcing us. I pray for people who do not understand that our values are our values. They're not headlines. They're not press releases. They're not palm cards. They're not radio commercials. They are actually the values of the people that comprise our union. This whole concept, this last campaign, oh Jesus, it was a thing. Because it was just about a safety standard. We literally had to fight for a safety standard. How do you negotiate a safety standard? Why do you have to negotiate a safety standard? Standard means that it just should be what it is. So when I hear living in the days of the old, how can you live in the days of the old when our mayor and her team at CPS were intent on sending human beings back into a school community, a building that didn't have proper ventilation for an airborne virus that will have killed over 500,000 people before this thing is over? That ain't a campaign, that is survival.
Listen, just underneath the picture of Karen Jennings Lewis on the front page of Chicago Tribune, which I'm showing you, but my listeners can't watch because we still haven't got it together to have this thing a visual. We're getting there, all right? Just give us time. Karen, you'll note, Stacy, that I actually have a camera now, different than last time.
I know, I see you. This is good.
Yeah, but half of students, the headline, half of students in Illinois still are remote. I was talking to my editor, another Karen, the great Karen Hawkins, about this yesterday, and she was talking about, she's from Alabama, her family's from Alabama, and she was talking about like how in Alabama, a red state, they don't even believe in the pandemic. They're like real eager and thirsty to get the kids back in school. But then she was like, it's like 2 weeks on and got to close it. Cause you know what I'm saying? There's like an outbreak. Cause it's like, this thing is for real. You know what I mean? It's not like a PR campaign that you can wave away, but with the health commissioner coming out and giving a speech, this thing is for real. And so like they close the schools, then they open them again. Stacy, I'm glad you guys apparently cut a deal. Looks like it's going to pass. God bless you. You had to put up with those 80 meetings, which sound like sheer torture with the HR guy.
It wasn't just torture. It was like a hostage negotiation, Ben. You know, and I'll say this, and I'll keep saying it was like a hostage negotiation. It was a master class in gaslighting. People telling you something that you know isn't true, know from your own experiences isn't true. Listen, I've come out of this one with a deeper appreciation and love for our members. What they have had to withstand in this moment, the ridicule, the berating, the pitting parents against them. Hell, they're parents. How you gonna pit me against my damn self? You know? They send their kids to CPS, just like I do. So this whole concept that they are like intent on doing something to hurt people, but then you want me back to help people, which one is it? I honor them. I do, because this is not easy. It's not going to be easy. I was like completely turned off by that press conference that they held on Sunday. It was like they won something. And I'm like, we're in a pandemic. This is so bad. We're in a pandemic. People are having a real experience with death and grief and mourning and illness and fear. And y'all are running victory laps and spiking footballs? Like, what is happening in this moment to our humanity? So no, look, Karen did what she had to do for that moment. And just because politicians say that they believe in what you believe in, it doesn't mean that they resource it. It doesn't mean that they implement it. It doesn't mean that they really agree, but they know it polls a certain way, so it's on their campaign material. Our work is to hold folks accountable for the implementation of, for the resourcing of, the transformative tools that we need in our communities to make it work. And if we're not doing that, who is? Who's doing that? You look at the plan that they put out before we made them do something different. And you tell me which one was inferior and which one is better. And better still ain't good enough.
Yeah, the schools could be closed. I mean, I'm just going on the story that's in the Tribune. Anybody can read it. It's not even the radical alternative newspapers. Chicago Tribune, as mainstream as it gets. Half of students in Illinois still all remote. They close them, they open them, they close them, they open them. Chicago could be closed in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. This is not something you control at a press conference. This is not something you could spin. This is a freaking pandemic. And somehow or other, this country, don't get me started, Stacy Davis Gates, cannot get it together to get the vaccine out to everybody. And that still boggles my mind. Like, Ben, I got a call. Yeah, if you call this number right now, you can get the vaccine. How come I got to know somebody to get the vaccine, Stacy? I'm like 90 years old. I should be able to get the vaccine right now. You got to know somebody.
You're not 90 years old, but you certainly should be able to get the vaccine. I mean, and you're white and live on the north side, so I know damn well you can get it.
Somehow or other, it's because I let Stacy Davis Gates on the bed. If you don't bring Stacy Davis Gates on your show, we'll give you the vaccine. Oh, all right. Sorry, Stacy. I want that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have any fun either. So, no. You know.
By the way, before we close, one good thing about this, I'm going to tease Stacy a little bit. She's not going to like this. One good thing about this showdown is that they came together. Stacy Davis Gates and Troy LaRaviere, two of my favorite people in the whole world. And I had, by the way, little known fact, I had Mick Dumke and I invited Troy and Karen to the hideout. We had two of them on stage, and Karen was trash talking Troy that night, and he was coming back. It was a great night.
Yeah,
So,
he couldn't compete with Karen though. He tried, but Karen is a master trash talker. That's for sure.
She is. So I was really glad that you the union got together. Go ahead.
Principals, I feel terrible for the principals, and you'll never hear me say this again. And I do though, because they are caught between a rock and a hard place. They know that this plan that they were given was unworkable. Troy told zero lies with respect to what his principals needed and how it should have been rolled out. He was right, period. He was right. And you don't fight people who are right. You don't. I mean, they do, obviously. And it's dumb, obviously. And yeah, terrible.
Well, anyway, I'm hoping, moving back to Karen, the great Karen Lewis, we'll close with this. I'm hoping that there'll be, I know we're in a pandemic, so there's not going to be any memorial services or anything, but I hope that in due time, there could be a memorial service. I truly believe the fact that all these newspapers had to put her picture on the front page and Mayor Rahm had to backtrack and rewrite history and talk about their great friendship. I think, how do I put this?
I think the fact that they even wrote and published that story is terrible. Write and publish a story about how Jesse Sharkey and Karen ran Chicago Teachers Union and what that meant. Run a story about Karen Lewis' husband and his enduring commitment and dedication and love for his wife. Write those stories. Ron didn't deserve that story. Not at all. He doesn't even deserve ink to talk about that. The tension, the ridicule, the humiliation, the campaigns, the missives that his operation threw her way, and now we want to whitewash it and make it something that it wasn't. No, there are other stories to be told. Talk about the stories of Karen and her students. Talk about the story of Karen and how her and Coach's students got them together. Like their romance was brokered by children at Atlanta Tech, teenagers. You know what I mean? Those are the stories you tell. You talk about how Karen, right before in the lead up to the strike, that she renewed her nationally, her MBCT, she's a nationally board certified teacher, how she renewed that in the lead up to the first strike in this city in 25 years. That's what you write those stories. Don't privilege someone else with her story, with her rise, with her legend. You privilege the person who built it. Talk to members of this union. Talk to Jackson Potter. Talk to Crystal Williams Hayes. Talk to Audrey May. You know, talk to Maria Moreno. Talk to Brandon Johnson. Talk to Marty Ritter, Kurt Hilgendorf, Jennifer Johnson, Christine Maley, Michael Brunson. There are plenty of people to talk to about Karen Lewis and what she, gave Chicago, not him. And that, I just think that's disrespectful. But that's me.
Stacy Davis Gates, thanks so much for coming on. And I would say congratulations.
Don't congratulate that.
I'm not. Sorry, I was about to say. It's like the whole thing was utterly insane. I'll repeat what I said at the outset. It should have been like Chris Paul and Adam Silver. Hey, what? A phone call. You got what it never should have gotten to this. Never should have gotten to this. But anyway, Stacy, stay safe and sound. Thanks for coming on the show to talk about our dear friend, the great Karen Lewis. We'll talk to you real soon, all right?
Hey, I appreciate you, man. And thank you for lifting our sister up. Thank you. And in love and in authenticity. Thank you for that.
All right, Stacy, you take care. That's the great Stacy Davis Gates. Hey, you got, what's that? Oh, I think we just cut her off.
Oh, my goodness. That was an accident, Stacy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, you got any updates before we head out that door?
Take a look at that little chat, little message I sent you there in the chat room. You see it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
What do you? I mean, like, I'm so afraid if I push a button, the whole thing will go down. I won't see it.
all right, we're gonna take a risk. We're gonna take a risk. At the top right, it says chat. You see that? Click on chat.
There's nothing that says chat.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, hold on. This says, chat with everyone. And there's a green dot.
Yeah. What's that little line say there at the bottom?
Should I click on it?
Yeah, click on it. Oh, that was a thunderous click.
It says, no update. Take us home. That was we smashed the fourth wall. Wow. And then I clicked the thing. Man, I'm like Mark Zuckerberg here with this thing. All right, there's no update today. I want to thank Stacy Davis Gates. She was outstanding, as she always is, talking about my dear friend, the great leader, Karen Lewis. I miss you, Karen. You were a really special person, a great friend. I also want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible. And as Stacy Davis Gates and Karen Lewis can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dennis. That's all, just Dennis. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everyone.
When I was a little girl, when I was a little girl,